Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to learn 12th class English lesson. The title of the lesson is An Astrologer's Day. This lesson is written by R.K.Narayan. It is a short story. First of all, I would like to tell you what is meant by astrologer. Astrologer is a person who looks at our palms, who looks at the lines of our palms, and by looking at the lines of our palms, he tells us our future, or what will happen with us tomorrow, or what will happen with us in future. He tells us by looking at our lines of our palms. Now we are going to start our lesson, An Astrologer's Day. Punctually at midday, he opened his bag and spread out his professional equipment, which consisted of a dozen cowrie shells, a square piece of cloth with obscure mystic charts on it, a notebook, and a bundle of palm writing. In this lesson, in the first paragraph, writer tells us that astrologer has come there. Astrologer come at the place where he sets his shop, and he has a bag with him, and in that bag he has his instruments, means the things which he required for doing his business. Those things are with him. And what are those things? And there are a dozen of cowrie shells. There are some shells, cowrie shells, which are tied in around the neck of goats. Why farmers tie a piece of rope in which there are cowrie shells and they are tied around the neck of goat? Because it saves them from the bad sight of people. He has some cowrie shells, he has one notebook, and he has some palmra writing, and he has a square piece of cloth, and on that square piece of cloth something is written there, but we are not able to understand, or we are not able to read what is that. Only astrologer can read those things. Now astrologer has come to his shop. He has opened his shop. His forehead was resplendent with sacred ash and vermilion, and his forehead is decorated with red color, and over that red color he has applied ash, that is the sacred ash, and his eyes sparkled with a sharp abnormal gleam. How are his eyes? His eyes, there is a gleam in his eyes. His eyes are shining, which was really an outcome of a continual searching look for customers. And why his eyes are gleaming, why his eyes are shining? Writer tells that his eyes are gleaming, his eyes are shining because he is continually looking for the customers, but which his simple clients took to be a prophetic light and felt comforted. And his customers look into his eyes and they see shining in his eyes, and they say that this shining is due to his prophet. This shining tells them or helps them to know their future, and they are comforted with the shining of his eyes. The power of his eyes was considerably enhanced by their position, placed as they were between the painted forehead and the dark whiskers which streamed down his cheeks. His forehead was painted, and over his cheeks he had long whiskers, and there was a turban tied around his head that was saffron colored, and eyes were looking very beautiful because of decorated forehead, long whiskers, and turban on his head. Even a half-wit's eyes would sparkle in such a setting. And writer says that though the person is half-witted means though the person is mad, but his face is decorated, his forehead is decorated in this way, then that person will also look very handsome. To crown the effect, he wound a saffron colored turban around his head. This color scheme never failed, and his color scheme was so perfect it never failed. Means he always looked very beautiful, he always looked very handsome because of his decoration on his forehead. People were attracted to him as bees are attracted to cosmos or dahlia stalks, and many people were attracted towards the astrologer as there are bees and they are attracted towards flowers. For sucking juice from the flowers, as bees are attracted towards flowers, in the same way people were attracted towards this astrologer. He sat under the boughs of a spreading tamarind tree, and he was sitting under a tamarind tree. There was a big tamarind tree. It had big branches, it had big boughs. They were spreaded over the road, they were spreaded over the path, and he was sitting under that tamarind tree. He sat under the boughs of spreading tamarind tree which flanked a path running through the town hall park. It was a remarkable place in many ways, and that place was remarkable. That place was very famous, where the astrologer was sitting on the road for doing his business. A surging crowd was always moving up and down this narrow road from morning till night. The road was narrow, but there was a crowd. Many people gathered, or many people were passing on that road from morning till night. A variety of trades and occupations was presented all along its way. Medicine sellers, sellers of stolen hardware and junk, magicians, and above all an auctioneer of cheap cloth, who created enough din all day to attract the whole town. And there were many shops on the road. There were hardware sellers, then there were medicine sellers, there were junk food sellers, there were magicians, and there were some people who would sell cheap clothes there, who created enough din all day to attract the whole town, and they were making loud noise to attract the whole town. To attract the customer, the people used to shout loudly for attracting their customers. Next to him, in vociferousness, came a vendor of fried groundnut, who gave his ware a fancy name each day, calling it Bombay ice cream one day, and on the next Delhi almond, and on the third Raja's delicacy, and so on and so forth, and people flocked to him. There was one person who used to sell groundnuts, fried groundnuts, and he would call those groundnuts by different names. Someday he would call them Raja's delicacy. Someday he would call them Bombay ice cream. Someday he would call them Delhi almonds. In this way he would give different name to his groundnuts, and that's why people would flock there. People would gather to buy groundnuts from him. A considerable portion of this crowd dallied before the astrologer too. The astrologer transacted his business by the light of a flare which crackled and smoked up above the groundnut heap nearby, and this astrologer also had a good business. He had not his own light, and the light from that vendor, from that groundnut seller would come there, and with the help of that light astrologer would do his business. Half the enchantment of the place was due to the fact that it did not have the benefit of municipal lighting, and half enchantment means magic. Half magic of his business was that he had no light. There was some darkness, means a faint light was there, means people were not able to see clearly in that area, and that was plus point for that astrologer. The place was lit up by shop lights, and there was light, but he had no his own light. There were some shops, and some light was coming there from those shops, and he was doing business in that light. And one or two, like the astrologer, managed without lights of their own, and there were some other shops also. They also run their business without light. It was a bewildering crisscross of light rays and moving shadows, and light was coming there, but light was confusing, and there were some shadows. This suited the astrologer very well, for the simple reason that he had not in the least intended to be an astrologer when he began life, and he knew no more of what was going to happen to others than he knew what was going to happen to himself next minute. And astrologer had not dreamed to become an astrologer initially. He had not become an astrologer with purpose. It was not his dream to become an astrologer, but because of situation, because of some problems, he had become an astrologer. And he did not know what will happen to him next minute, because he had no idea what will happen with him and what will happen with others. Yet he would tell the prophet, he would tell the future of other peoples. He was as much a stranger to the stars as were his innocent customers. And we see stars in the sky, and in olden days people had no idea about stars. They had no detailed information about stars, and they were thinking it is a magic. And in the same way, astrologer also was thinking it was a magic. He had no detailed information or knowledge about stars. He was strangers to stars as other people were strangers. He was unknown to stars as other peoples were unknown to stars. Yet he said things which pleased and astonished everyone. That was more a matter of study, practice, and shrewd guesswork. He would tell the future of people, and he was able to tell the future of people only because of his guesswork, only because of his cleverness, only because of his practice. He was able to tell the people their future. All the same, it was as much an honest man's labor as any other, and he deserved the wages he carried home at the end of the day. But he would do his business from heart. He would do hard work to do his business, and he would get some money by doing this business, and he deserved for that, because he had taken that much work. He had taken that much. What we call, he had done that much struggle to earn the money. He had left his village without any previous thought or plan, and he had left his village without any preparation, without any planning. If he had continued there, he would have carried on the work of his forefathers, namely tilling the land, living, marrying, and ripening in his cornfield and ancestral home. If he had not left his village, what would he have done? He would have done farming. He would have done the business of his ancestors, business of his forefathers. He would have got married there, and he would have become a farmer. But that was not to be. He had to leave home without telling anyone, and he could not rest till he left it behind a couple of 100 miles. To a villager it is a great deal, as if an ocean flowed between. And he had left his business. He had gone across the ocean, and village people never gone beyond the ocean, because it was a sin for them. But he had left his village because of some problem. He had a working analysis of mankind's troubles, marriage, money, and the tangles of human ties. Long practice had sharpened his perception. Within 5 minutes, he understood what was wrong. He charged 3 pice per question, never opened his mouth till the other had spoken for at least 10 minutes, which provided him enough stuff for a dozen answers and advices. And he was doing his business, and people would ask him questions, and he would charge per question 3 pice. And first 10 minutes he would only listen the problem of his customer would speak continuously, and for 10 minutes he would keep quiet and listen all the information. And after listening all the information, then he would ask his customer to ask him questions, and he would answer his customer, but he was able to answer him by listening for 10 minutes from the customer. We will continue remaining part tomorrow. Thank you very much.